David.
Cool.
Welcome to another show, the Beyond Sets and Reps podcast. I am your host, Dr. Coach Pat Ivey, and I am excited to reshare with you someone that I had a chance to meet, Coach Beebe. He is an amazing person, has his own podcast. I was a guest on his podcast, so we are doing an exchange here. I want to introduce him to you all, my guest. And without further ado, Coach, how's it going? What are you doing?
Life's good. I'm glad we're running it back and the sequel with our podcast. So enjoyed our last one. I just came from the gym. I have to go to two actually. I swam first and then normally I lift first and then swim, but today I swam first and then I went back to my gym and because my son's in town and some other football players are in town, so I was just working with them, coaching them, and then hustled back here to make sure I'm good to go.
You know, the first time you told me that you were swimming, like when I looked at you, I was like, he doesn't look like a swimmer. What's
Mm-mm.
going on with this swimming thing?
Well, that's a question. It's gonna be a minute with that answer, but that's a good one. So when I opened my gym, I was doing CrossFit, learned more about powerlifting and then Olympic lifting and then strongman. And CrossFit's great because it gets you in shape, but also introduces you to all these different options for health, wellness, training, whatever. And I just like strength sports, Highland games where you're throwing, and then strongman stuff. So, athlete competing in the masters level, which means I'm over 40 years old at the time. And it's basically how big and strong can you get, right? And all the events are usually a minute or less. They're typically very heavy, at least heavy for me. So for years, in my mid to late 40s, I was doing strongman and powerlifting and loving it. Like everything, you're told at some point, hey, it's time to stop playing, right? And for me, it was right in the beginning of 21. Had a number of injuries, broken foot from training, herniated disc, torn some ligaments in my hand, but also had a blood clot. And so everything gets worked out, everything's fine. The doctor's like, hey, you need to be on this blood thinner. So I'm like, okay. And because, also you probably need to quit lifting so heavy. I'm like, well, why is that? He says, well, if you're on blood thinners, your blood's obviously thinner. That inside your cranial pressure increases when you're lifting heavy, and if blood starts leaking out because it's thinner, you're gonna have a stroke. I was like, after that. So very, very sobering, right? So the next 6, 8, 9 months, I got to kind of like find my identity again with training. So I keep lifting, but not heavy. I don't want to lose my habits of lifting 4 days a week, but I just not going to be heavy. So at least I have that. And then I start, all right, well, new whys, new directions. Let's be leaner. I can't be 320 pounds at 6'3". I got to be leaner and be healthier at least. And new goals, longer, longevity, more impact. I want to do some more things and start thinking about, my dad's health. He was sick at 58 and dead at 62. So I'm like, I want to do some things. So I started thinking more and more, which led to a couple, the book and then my own podcast and stuff. So I dropped down to, I'm at 250, right? 250, but I'm still 6'3". Don't change in there. And, when I started my own podcast, I just meet awesome people, like yourself. And I met this guy, Kenny Bigby. He's a former SEAL that does jujitsu here in town, who then refers me to Bill Brown. And both those guys were referenced in David Goggins' books. I'm like, oh, shoot, okay. So I meet Bill Brown, another SEAL. Great story. He'll tell you that he's a big screw up, always fighting. Only white kid in a New Jersey high school, always getting his ass beat and getting in fighting, kicked out all the time. So he says the Navy saved his life. He got some direction.
Mhm.
Goes in the SEAL program, finishes his tour there, and then he's went to Rutgers. Now he's an attorney out of Rutgers. So completely turns things around, and he's very patriotic. And he has this New York City SEAL swim. And when I had him on the show, he goes, "Hey Jim, man, you got to come out for this." And I'm like, I'll come out and support you guys, and I can meet some more folks for the show,
Right.
self-serving, right? But even if I swam twice a day, I'm, strength athlete. Like I train, I do conditioning, but swimming, that's a whole different animal. And I go, so what's the deal? He goes, well, you don't have to swim. I go, good, because I'm not going to. And he goes, but here's the deal. You start in New Jersey, you run about a mile, and it's all these people, and they're carrying these flags, and then paratroopers drop down, and then it kind of kicks off the whole event. Then you swim across to the Statue of Liberty. And I'm like, dang, man, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And then once you get there, it's 100 push-ups and 22 pull-ups, and you swim from there to the Ellis Island. Same deal, push-ups and pull-ups, and you swim from there to Manhattan, push-ups, and then you get the flags back, and you run to the World Trade Center, more push-ups and pull-ups. The event's over. They raised a bunch of money for charity, awesome speakers, and they raised like 700,000 this current year. So I went out there to support that. But they said, Jim, if you prepare and qualify, maybe next year. And I thought, man, with my philosophies on building athletes mentally and physically, like if it's true and it's just putting in the time and effort and trying to get better, right? If it's true, can you take someone who's turning 50, which I did a week ago, who's turning 50, and his whole journey is strength athlete, be strong, be heavy, just move as much weight as possible. Something completely different, swimming, body weight, everything's body weight, and it's for it's not just a little bit. It's about 3 to 3.5 miles of total open water swimming. Could you apply the same philosophies and build that athlete? I'm like, well, if the philosophy is true, then it should work. So I was like, okay, personal experiment. Let's go. Give myself enough runway. Find some coach. It's humbling. The kid's 22. He's a college swimmer, but he knows how to swim, and I didn't.
Hmm.
Started giving me lessons, and my first time swimming was 10 lengths. Each length's 25 meters. It's embarrassing. You got to rest for a minute at the end. I can't figure out the breathing because your face is in the water. I'm like, oh my God, I am at the bottom. All right, well, put it in my journal, hop out, come back the next day. So now I'm 4 or 5 months in, swim up to about a mile. I break it up, swim 200s or 400s, do 25 push-ups in between. And so just keep building up that volume. I still do my lifting, again, much, much less. I don't ever want to stop because I just love it. But then I have this event next August, and I'm like, I'm going to show everyone that I can do this. And kind of like what you said, I want to prove some people wrong. I wrote that down in the book too. Here's my list of people that said I can't do it. Not my main driver. My main driver, a lot more intrinsic, internal things.
Right.
It's still a driver though. So I just keep track and I just keep grinding at it. I'm like, well, give myself enough runway, and that's why I'm swimming 4 or 5 times a week.
That is amazing. That's much more than I thought it was to it. It's,
Right?
that is amazing. And so I'm going back. I want to know young Jim
Mm,
and why he got into training, which led you to open up your own gym
mm.
that gets us to where we are today.
Boy, that's a big question, right? And that's kind of everything. We grew up on the east side of Cleveland, and not it's okay part of town, not great now. Pretty bad now, but not that bad then. But we didn't have money. My parents spent all their money on Catholic education. So other than that, it was food stamps and not doing a lot of things. A lot of things we're helping out around, which I'm very, very thankful for, But I always wanted to do athletics. And some years we did, some years we didn't. I didn't get into playing baseball until I was about 12. Um, basketball, I was 6'3", so I was this tall at 14, so I had some advantages, but didn't really know or have the resources to get better. My parents didn't know. It's a school teacher and an attorney, right? They're doing the best, and I love them for it. I'm unbelievably thankful because my mom's going to listen to this, and she's going, "I'm so sorry we failed you." I go, "You didn't fail me, man. I'm
Mhm.
thrilled with where I'm at."
Mhm.
Um, but I asked my dad, how do I get better? How do I beat these kids? How do I become a starter? He goes, I don't know, man. Do a lot of push-ups, I guess. I don't know. So then I go to St. Ignatius High School, which is humbly a very good school. They've won 55 state titles in the last 25 years. They're a big school. They just cranking out monsters academically and physically, and I wasn't that. So by my freshman year, I'm already done. And I've always like I'd be practicing in the backyard or trying to figure it out on my own. Just never got to where I wanted to be. I was good at math, so I go to Purdue. I figure engineering, but didn't really want to do that. I'd rather do something with finance. And so I did. Ended up working hedge fund, trader, banking, and I got my MBA. So I'm doing finance and investments. And fast forward, I'm in my mid 30s, doing fine, making a decent living. Um, Divorced about 3 years. I got three kids, and one day I'm playing catch in the front yard, and I have this German Shepherd, and I'm just fat. I'm not strong. I'm just fat. Can't run a mile. Can't bench 135. Can't squat 135. And I'm playing catch football with my son, and I go, hey, and I trained my German Shepherd so that if my son threw a bad ball, I didn't have to go get it. The Shepherd would go get it and bring it for me because I was lazy and fat. And I asked my son one day, hey, what do you want to be when you get big there, buddy? And he goes, I want to be an athlete.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, here I am in my mid 30s. And 30 years ago, I was saying the same thing. 25 years ago, I was saying the same thing. And I had nothing. And I'm like, I couldn't figure it out. And it's exactly what I wanted. And I looked at myself, I'm not even setting an example of how to be healthy. My dad didn't do this, did the same thing. He set no example on how to be healthy. Like, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just repeating what I grew up in. And now my kids are going to be handicapped because of my leadership. And I'm like, I'm walking up the stairs and I'm out of breath. And I'm like, no, no. Mm-mm. It's like when that drunk bottoms out.
Hmm.
I'm like, So I started P90X in my living room, and then went to group training, and then CrossFit, and then I spent about a year at this CrossFit gym. And I told these young kids who were college athletes that are running this gym, I'll go, hey, I'm going to intern underneath you if that's okay. I'll do it for free. I'm still working at the bank, JP
Hmm.
Morgan, the big monster bank. And I'm like, I just want to learn everything that you guys do, and then I'm gonna open my own gym on the other side of town. They're like, cool. And so I wrote a business plan, and because I took the book from MBA school on how to write a business plan, and I just used the book
Hmm.
every page. I went around to some of my clients in the banking world and I said, hey, can I borrow some money? And they said, sure, at an enormous interest rate. I cashed in all my investments, everything, all my
Wow.
retirement plans, paid the penalties. Started coaching people in my garage, and then in 2013, I rented some space in this warehouse, and it was more than I needed, but it was very, very cheap. So I started my gym there. The first couple of years, very, very painful. You're learning more and more how to coach, going to seminars and clinics and getting more certifications. Then you're also learning how to run a small business, which was completely different than publicly traded businesses. First couple of years, very painful. Car repossessed, just not making money, not doing things right. And then finally, I started learning some things, get better in both areas, and turn it around. And fast forward, I'm about to finish 12 years. My son, I mentioned, he played college football. All my kids were athletic and at least healthy, but played high school sports, and so was able to rewrite the ship and impact the family and what we're trying to build here, and that brings me to today.
Wow. 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 Um, I'm thinking about so many lessons and life lessons. And, if I'm hearing this for the first time, I'm hearing story about dreams, passion, purpose, perseverance, um, having a game plan, executing the game plan, and knowing your why.
Mm, yep.
I'm hearing all of that, and um, I love what you said about probably hitting rock bottom. Because I've heard a story. People don't change because they want to; they change because they have to.
Hmm.
And I think you knew you had to change.
I did. Yeah. It's either something cathartic, like you get in a car accident, or you're drunk and you hurt somebody or something like that, or it's something very, very deliberate that takes a lot of reps to move the needle.
Hmm.
And so for me, it was a bit of both. I'm like, I'm looking around, I'm like, this ain't it, man. This ain't it. And so then it was, all right, how do I do this?
Yeah.
And if there's a solution to every problem, which there is, someone else has figured it out. I'm going to copy other smart people and get lots of reps so I can get that feedback immediately, so I can see where I'm sucking and constantly adjust.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So we have something else in common, and I don't think we did not discuss this when I was on your podcast, but I went to school for pre-engineering as well.
Mm,
And I did that for a year and it was not working. It didn't work for me. trying to be an athlete, trying to be a good athlete, I should say. I was an athlete, trying to be a good student, and trying to be a good friend, or like
Right.
person, well rounded,
Right.
even having a social life. And I realized you had to pick. Some people would just pick one thing,
Yep.
like academics, no social life, no sports, just getting through school. Some people thought that it was possible to do like school. Well, I'm here to be a student, and I'm gonna have a little bit of a social life, balance it, have a little bit of fun, maybe not get all A's, but
Sure.
have good experience. And then there are people like me that thought, well, I want it all, and you can't have it all. Um, there's some people that can. There's some people that did it. Um,
Hmm.
I was not one of those people to be able to do it. Um, and I had not figured it out at that age, but eventually went into try business, and then found my way over to the ag school because of my academic situation at that time, and did a hotel and restaurant management degree. Eventually went on to play pro ball and went to grad school. But I just hear so many similarities. I'm fascinated w- of how you were in your 30s. You looked at some 20-year-olds who are running a business and said, I'm going to intern for you. And I
Mm.
think that's a story that younger people need to hear nowadays. That level of focus and sacrifice to get to where you want to get to, not to be handed anything, but to
Sure.
work for it. You talk about the financial hardships of chasing this dream. Like,
Like,
that's real. Like,
yes.
I've made this decision to put myself in a worse situation currently to hopefully get to something better. What was that like?
You know, if you can find a couple or several truisms that help define you and who you are and keeps you driven or focused, like it say, like in the Marines, there's conduct unbecoming the Marines, the catch-all. That's one thing that kind of, hey, you do any screw up at all, this catches you. And if you say I'm an athlete, I'm doing these things, or I'm a Catholic or I'm a Christian, I'm a God-fearing man. And so I have a number of those. And I was researching like how do people see at the bank, the real wealthy ones were people that ran their own business and then sold it. I'm like, okay, well, and I listened to Steve Jobs who says that, hey, if you love what you're doing, you never work a day in your life. That's not exactly true. You work your ass off. You also want to be good at what you're doing, not just love it. Because I love drinking beer, but that is not going to make me any money or who I want to be.
Hmm.
Um, but I also knew that when you have a big focus, and people say I'm burning the boats, like they really don't.
Hmm.
But I'm like, what if I did that? What if I got rid of all my investments? What if I didn't have a backup plan where I could go back to the bank? What if I got rid of it? So I got to be all in all day, all the time. Then I will be hyper focused. I have no other options.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I'm gonna do that. And people are like, what? No safety net? I'm like, can't, because I'm gonna be leaning on that net. I'll be, I got two wives then. I'm not faithful to either one.
Hmm.
So I had to be all in, and I had to constantly like be drinking through the fire hose on how to train people. Show me the West Side approach, show me the Bulgarian approach, show me speed, all hypertrophy, all that crap. Then there's nutrition. But how do you run a small business? So I'm reading books, I'm talking to other entrepreneurs, clinics, and I'm gonna just, all right. So if I have my kids with me, I'm gonna be present with them.
Hmm.
And when I don't, full steam, full send, all the time.
Hmm.
Saturdays were a little rough when I didn't have my kids. I would come home, your nervous system's broke. And I would coach these morning sessions, and I would have the afternoon where I didn't have to do anything. I would kind of start getting my week together and going on Sunday. But Saturday, I would turn on something like, I swear it was Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives, a TV show with Guy Fieri about
Yeah.
food. And I'm like, and I'd watch 10 episodes. It'd be 5 hours. I'm just like broken, like in this comatose, like you're stoned off your ass, right? And I'm just sitting there, just okay, just trying to get ready to go again. And it
Mhm.
was it was a speed. It was a breakneck speed for a while, and it's not fun. 4% of businesses make it 10 years if you listen to Tony Robbins. There's probably better ways to do it. I didn't know or have them. So at that point, it's just going to be grit, and I'm going to push.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Tell us a little about your gym and what it's like and where are you with it and where are you trying to go?
Oh, good question. Great question, man. Clearly has a PhD, intelligent. So it's 10,000 square feet in a warehouse on the same place on the west side of Indianapolis, right by the airport, and suburbs, Plainfield, Indiana. So by and large, it's CrossFit or functional fitness for all our adults. That's probably 80% of our clientele. The other 20% is going to be student athletes, and there's two kinds. There's kids that are not very athletic, and their parents want them to be athletic or healthy and well-rounded. Awesome, because that's one of my drivers when I wanted to help with kids growing up because I didn't have that. And then there's other kids that are athletes and they want to play varsity in high school. They want to play in college at some level or beyond. So we work with those kinds. Everything's very, very similar, just the intensity and volume is different. And then there's nutrition. The base of your health and wellness is going to be how you eat. And then for those that really want to push, there's that mindset component that I work with people. And
Mhm.
given, being driven and knowing your whys and going through that crucible, that's how I work with folks. So I'm a flavor that's not for everybody,
Yeah.
but that's what we do. Do a bunch of charity work. Breast cancer is a big deal for us. Military, another big deal.
Mhm.
And then I got this spot in my heart for these kids that are screw ups. So maybe you're kicked out of school or you've been arrested. They can come train at my place for free because you can get all those
Mhm.
lessons in the gym. We want them. So we have a place for that. It's Special Olympics. Uh, so we work with special needs kids because same deal, trying to be better mentally and physically. Great. I don't care if they play D1 or if they can barely do an air squat. We want them. We want to, my calling is impact. So come in there and we're going to work with you and try to get you better.
Mhm.
Now that's evolved, you're there for so long. You're like, well, do I scale? Do I get a second gym, a third gym, same city, different city? I thought about that, and what I felt I wanted to do was grow beyond the gym and impact people either remotely or work with coaches or teams where it's a travel team. So that's why I published a book recently. The planner's coming out in about a week, and then there's a digital course, but some public speaking. And you go through all this pain and stuff, you start figuring out processes.
Mhm.
And I would go to like these motivational speakers and be like, all right, I'm motivated, but now what do I do? Tell me the process. Show me what do I do? Because it's your habits, right? So I started putting together these habits and I would ask others what's it take to be great. And
Mhm.
I compile it and all right, here's my philosophy. Here's the way, I guess, by Jim Beebe.
Yeah.
And I work with people. And so there's the gym, then there's the business outside the gym.
Yeah. Tell us about your book. I want to go through the chapters.
Sure,
I want to know why did you write it, and then tell us what's in it.
sure. So here it is. All right.
Nice.
Athlete Builder, the blueprint to build champion athletes. And it says right here, who's this for? This is for everyone that told me no and you can't do it. And for everyone else that's heard the same thing. This is book is how you show them that you can do it. Right.
Mhm.
And so some people are do-it-yourselfers. It's a manual. You want to build mindset. You want to build your recovery. You want to work on your training. You want to work on your nutrition. You don't know how. I was that person that didn't know how. So here you go.
Mhm.
Here's basic data. Here's the big drivers. You don't know what protein is? Bam. How many grams of protein should you have? Bam. Right. So, and then there's questions, there's questionnaires. If you want to be the best on your team, how do you measure up with the other people on your team? Are you the strongest, the fastest? Do you have the best nutrition? Do people know your whys? No? Okay. Well, here's your score on your test. Take the test in 3 months. See, maybe you're better. Do you want to be all conference? Well, success leaves clues, right? What does an all conference athlete look like? It looks like this height, this weight, this is their numbers, this is how many tackles they have. This is that you ask your coach, what's an all conference athlete look like in the past? Well, he was doing this many extra hours of film study. Great, give me this blueprint. I want to be that or more. So it helps you ask the questions. What does it take to be great? You want to play in the NFL? Well, shoot. Here's Pat. What's that look like? You want to play D line in the NFL? Okay. What's that look like?
Hmm.
So you go out and find those mentors. I keep asking the questions that when you find the answers, this tells you what to do.
Hmm.
And that's the whole point of it. Um, on the site, there's some like other tools. There's nutrition guides. There's a basic workout plan. If you have absolutely no idea what to do, I just said, all right, here's 10 things you can do for your nutrition. Pick one. Here's 10 for your training. Pick one. So I make it as intricate and as advanced as you want, or I could dumb it down as much as you want if you're a beginner, and
Hmm.
you just keep progressing. It's like choose your own adventure, and you just keep going.
Yeah. So you talked about the legacy you wanted to leave for your children and
Mm.
for athletes. And I know we talked about your son who's a Division I athlete. Um, I want to know, in your opinion, what makes a successful parent of an athlete and what advice, and then this is two part. And then for parents out there who parents of athletes, what advice do you give them based on your experience right now in training athletes?
What makes a great athlete? All right, so you're doing all the things that every athlete has to do on the team. Say you play basketball and you're a point guard. You go to all the practices, you're doing all the things, you're with coach, you're doing the film study, blah, blah, blah. That is the minimum. That's the basics. That's not hard work. That's just the requirements. Are you lifting? Are you lifting? I think kids really are not lifting. People playing travel sports are not lifting. All the ACL tears, travel softball, travel soccer, basketball, they're doing all the games, they're not lifting. See, when I was a kid, there's rec league, and that was basically it. And if you're really good, then maybe you played on the travel team, which is like maybe a 4 or 6 weeks. So you got more reps against better talent. And that was enough of a separator to help you play high school or play varsity. Everyone plays travel ball. That's not a separator. Almost no one lifts. Everyone knows who the strong kid is on the team. Everyone knows who the most powerful kid is on the team. Your kid's probably not doing that. That's the competitive advantage that people are missing. One, because if you don't do it and the injury rate is so high, there's a good chance your kid's getting hurt because they're overplaying. And if you get hurt, you're out a year. ACL, Achilles, shoulder tears, long time, right? So now you're set back. If you're the one kid who's just lifting 3 days a week, huge, huge separator, huge, enormous. Now, my son had a dad that owned the gym, so he would train with the school and stuff. But in middle school, he's doing a lot of body weight stuff, a lot of pull-ups, a lot of lunges.
Mhm.
And then we get in middle school and he's pushing sleds, doing a lot more kettlebell work. In the high school, they struggle because they have great intentions, but they might have 75 kids per coach for 50 minutes. Everyone's doing the same workout. It's tough. And it's hard. You can't really tailor to someone very well. So you need someone outside filling in the gaps. And there's usually a bunch of fear that I don't want to hurt this kid, blah, blah, blah. And I don't want to do that either, but injuries happen. But the ones that are stronger probably aren't getting injured as much. So build that posture, build that backside, strong back, strong everything.
Mhm.
Big squat, right? Have those big drivers. And so if your kid can lift and outlift most people on the team, huge, huge, huge advantage. Two, and I'm guilty of this, right? The When parents or people take away adversity and pain in their kids or their athletes, it's a really awful, mean, selfish act. So if I care about you and you're my son, and I see you in pain and struggling, I want to take that away from you so you're not in pain. Because when I see my son struggling or my daughter, I want to take it away because it hurts. If you care about this kid, it hurts, right? It hurts you intrinsically to
Mhm.
watch them in pain. It
Mhm.
hurts. If I take that away from you and I hold the pain or whatever, or take it away and you're no longer hurting, then I'm no longer hurting. I'm trying to alleviate it myself, right? You grow through pain and adversity. A 500 squat hurts. 100 pull-ups hurts. Running sprints hurts. Doing extra studying hurts. Getting up early and planning out your meals that day so you have enough protein is painful, right? Going to bed on earlier when no one else wants to, not drinking and getting all fucked up when other people are wanting to do that. That
Hmm.
stuff hurts, right?
Hmm.
And then you are stronger for it. And so most parents are taking away all this pain. They go to the teacher, they go to the coach, and they start talking for them. So the kids are taught to be drones, they're taught to be zombies, and let everyone else think and do for them. And you have to let them suffer and fail. If I, you want to help, here's an example, tying a shoe. I always tie your shoe. You're an idiot, right? You can't tie your own shoe. Or if they're always Velcro. Like you can't tie your own shoe. So then what do? Maybe I teach you how to tie your shoe, right? I bridge that gap. So I teach you and then you do it for yourself. Way better, right?
Hmm.
What if I just throw the shoe at you and say, man, figure it out? Well, that sucks, right?
Hmm.
But someone at some point learned how to tie a damn shoe. And you're going to find some way to be resourceful or enough trials and errors that you're going to learn how to tie your own shoe. That's not fun, is it?
No.
But now you're going to learn to be resourceful,
Right.
right? So I taught my kid how to tie a shoe. I wasn't that smart or that awesome, but I'm like, that's an example. So the other part, let those kids fight their battles. They got a bad grade, they go talk to the teacher. They got held in detention, they go talk to them, advocate for themselves. You messed up. I can't be there with your boss, you know, when you're working. I can't be there with a coach. Coach treats you like shit. Coach, I understand what you're saying. You have to learn how to work with those folks. That's your teammate. That's one of the components of the book, your teammates. So how do you do that? There's a process, right? So those are my two things. Be strong and powerful, avoid injuries, and so you can impose your will in your sport. And then two, let them go through hard things. Give them hard challenges, let them fail so they learn how to be resilient.
I believe that we, for a while, have gone away from that as a
Mm,
society. Do you think we are moving back towards that? And where is that being driven from? If it is it being driven from the kids themselves, or is it the leaders, the adults are saying, okay, this is what we need to start doing? Is it happening at all? Or are we still kind of um, moving away from that sort of personal responsibility, figure it out on your own kind of mindset?
I'd say most of what I observe with parents and coaches is that they're not letting the kids suffer. Like they're still, it's not that they're helicopter parents, they're lawnmower parents, right? They're mowing all the problems down in front of them, not just hovering over them. I'm still seeing a lot of that, and it's never sustainable. Strong people make great times, right? Great times make weak people.
Mm.
Weak people make hard times. Hard times make strong people. It's cyclical, right? Like look at everybody. The fall of Rome, they conquered everybody, and now they're just fat and drinking all the time. Boom. Countries, empires do the same thing. They get comfortable, fat, dumb, and lazy, and then they weaken and they fall. Companies do the same thing. Families have those cycles. Societies have those cycles. Countries aren't always the dynasties, right? So we're still in that point where we start doing these for these other folks, and then you have a weak generation. And then when they have that weak generation, then they need more help. They're more dependent. So then you have bigger government and bigger entities calling the shots until it breaks. And people are like, man, we can't fight a war. We can't defend ourselves. Everyone's weak. And they're like, oh shit, it doesn't work. We need to go back to building men and women, build strong mentally and physically strong men and women. And I don't think we're broken enough to start building that yet. I think some are. There's always difference. Some are. A lot are not. And the old school guys like the Nick Sabans of the world are getting old,
Hmm.
and so it's tough. It's tough. I
Yeah.
think you see people like David Goggins and Jocko, those big personalities that talk about, or Joe Rogan or Dana White. They start talking about, man. pushing, if you can get all those people talking about it, like Gretzky, Jordan, they're talking about all the reps and all the struggles. You get enough people to listen to those people and then start replicating those habits.
Mhm.
I think that's our best shot. You have big personalities. I'm just Jim Beebe, small personality, right? You get enough people talking like that and then leading like that and demanding that standard, then you got a shot.
When you when you're working with athletes, are you working with teams at all? So are there team dynamics a part of what you do?
A little. So I work with like some softball teams, some
Mhm.
volleyball teams, and they'll come in to train. And then I'm also like, all right, let's work on some other things, guys. Got to just increase some basic awareness. You guys know what a protein is, right? Why are you guys here? If I can get one or two whys, and it's hard when you're middle school or junior high or high school to know yourself. Man, I didn't know myself, right? It's hard. I went in engineering. I got kicked out after 3 semesters. I hated it. I hated it. You don't know yourself, but hey, who do you want to be? If I can get them to point that out, who they want to be, I want to be a hard worker. I want to be a champion, blah, blah, blah. Well, when their effort reflects what they want to be, tons of praise, right?
Mhm.
When their efforts don't, if they're cheating reps, not running through the line, not locking out their arms on push-ups, I said, well, you said you wanted to be this. Does this reflect that? They say no. Well, there's a disconnect. Give them another shot. They do it again. Okay, well, here's a reminder. You said you want to do these things. My job is to help instill that and hold you accountable. We're redoing all those push-ups. Okay. That's what we're about. Like that's my calling is to help you build the best person. If I let you slide, I'm not doing my job and I'm failing. And then, here's your money back because I failed you. Can't have that. Right. So we do work on some things like that about um the other piece with team dynamics, they expect the old guy, they expect the dad to hold people accountable. I got to find those people on the team and say, hey man, you got to hold them accountable too. It's more impactful coming from you and you guys are building this culture so you guys can win. You guys got to hold yourselves to that standard. So I need you guys to do it too. So I got to find those lieutenants in the group that's
Mhm.
holding the whole team accountable and say, hey, we don't do that here, guys. We're doing this. Okay. So that's about as involved as I get like at our gym.
Mhm.
Or I can come out and start working with groups and those dynamics, whether it's a clinic or uh, I'm an entrepreneur, so I can do, I guess, whatever. And
Mhm.
if you said, hey man, let's come out like once a week or once a month and start working on things, I'm like, great, let's go. Can't wait.
Yeah.
It's the most fun I have other than hanging out with my family and those kinds of things.
Yeah. I asked that question because someone asked me a similar question recently, and the answer I gave, I'm still thinking about the answer I gave. Now, the question was, do you think that holding athletes accountable, so in other words, punishing the team for one athlete's inability to meet the standard, whatever that standard is, back in the day, that's how you did it. One
Mhm.
person messed up, everybody on the line. One person can't get it right, everyone on the line. I don't know today. You can't do it exactly how it was done with us.
Mhm.
You can't do that. You can't do that. Because you at least you have to explain more and you probably have to give more background and do more uh off to the side conversations with certain athletes to help them to understand. And for us, where we are at the collegiate level, there's the transfer portal, there's NIL. That like you don't like something, you can just leave, and you can leave more than once, and there's no time period of how long you have to stay.
Mhm.
So that team accountability, one person screwed up, keep screwing up everybody on the line, because what you were trying to do is create an environment where peer pressure would correct the problem. You're
Mhm.
hoping that the other teammates would either get tired of it, sick of it, or someone would break through and go, hey, I got you. You're right next to me. I'm next to you the entire time until you get this. So that's what you're hoping for, at least back in the day. I don't know if you can do that anymore, at least not at the intensity level it was done. So I was wondering, is that something you see in the private sector as well?
Yes, I saw it yesterday when I was coaching the high school and college kids.
Hmm.
And the week before, I asked them these identity questions. They took notes. I took notes. And one of the homework assignments was review your identity core values. I have six that we preach all the time. And I said, you can copy mine, they're awesome, or you can take a couple, or you can have your own. But I want to make sure you have yours and you know them, so they're going to drive your actions.
Hmm.
So yesterday, I said you need to remind yourself 3 times a day. So you write them out, and you're gonna lock that picture on your phone. So when you get up, when you go to bed, you look at them each time. So there's two, and then one other time in the middle of the day during lunch, you look at it. So you start training your subconscious. I'm a winner. I'm an adapter. I'm driven. I'm focused. Whatever. I'm a communicator. You have these words, and you start developing that subconscious 3 times a day. So yesterday it was 1 week later. I go, let's go over our homework. You guys remember your homework? Some did, some didn't. Did you guys do your homework? Well, one did, and some other ones didn't do it at all. Gotcha. This is for you, right? You guys paying for this? No, your parents paying for this? Yeah, right. You said you want to be all conference. You said you want to start varsity in high school. You said you want this. These words that identify you push you towards it. Your actions didn't. All right, 150 push-ups, go. Two of them didn't do it, so they needed to do the push-ups. The third guy got them all right, and I just looked at him, but he'd been with me for a while. And when I got them all right, he goes, "I know, teamwork. If they're doing it, I'm going to do it too." I'm like, "You don't have to, man. I know, but they're my teammates, so now I got to, right?"
Mm.
Now, to answer your question, which I definitely didn't do that yet. You at first you praise publicly and criticize privately, right? At first. And you got to do that for a while. And when someone's not running through the line or they're not getting their homework done right, you got to tie it back to the individual and say, you said you want to do these things. You want an NIL deal.
Mm.
Your best shot at an NIL deal is to be outstanding. And if you're outstanding, means you're going to be outstanding on game day. And the only way to be outstanding on game day is if you're outstanding in practice, like Jordan points out, I'm going to smash everybody in practice so I can win at the games. Well, if you're getting beat in practice, you're going to get beat in a game, which means you don't get the NIL money as much. Like that's just the way it's going to work. So
Mhm.
if you can tie it back to that, or you want this championship, right? That you just tie it back to your effort here. If someone says, "I want to be a leader, I want to be captain," then I go over to that guy and said, "Hey, you said you want to be captain. We want to lead this team. We want to win this conference championship. Your buddy's failing, right? What do you need to do?" I don't know. Well, Mickey Marotti says that the head of a sports performance strength coach at Ohio State, that leaders must be seen, heard, and felt. So they got to see you doing the right things, which you are, captain. They got to hear the words out of your mouth. But they got to feel you. They got to feel your personality. They got to feel your love.
Mhm.
So you probably need to go over by this guy that's messing up and work with him if you're going to be the leader. If you want to be a leader, here's your chance. Here's your action. So I'm tying it to that individual's goals and whys. If someone's constantly being a problem, well, then you start punishing the group and the team, and that's going to work its way up. And that person who's constantly a problem, he's not getting the NIL money. He's going to be in a portal. He's not helping your team anyway. So everybody can play, but this isn't for everybody.
You mentioned Mickey Marotti. He's a good friend of mine as well. Um, when he was at the University of Florida,
Mm.
had strength
Swamp Kings.
Swamp Kings. He he actually called me and came to visit me when we were at Missouri, and he wanted to check out our facilities and really honored, someone that's been in the game as long as him and
Hmm.
national championship rings. Um, and we maintain a really good, close relationship. And then when he went to Ohio State, I asked him to return the favor. And so I went over with our head dietitian and we just got to see behind the scenes. And when I came back, I told my administration, I said, I think Ohio State's going to win the national, be in or win the national championship in 3 years. I'm not a prophet, but that third year, they won the national championship. And when I went back to share what I saw, and when I made that proclamation, that I thought they were going to win or be in the national championship in 3 years, it was, well, what makes you say that? It's like, because I saw, I heard, and I felt something different
Right.
when I went there. When I walked in one of the assistant coaches' offices, and there on their table was this huge checkerboard. Well, it wasn't they called it checkers, but it was a huge football field on a table, but it was checkers, the actual pieces. And I was like, what is that? Mickey said, oh, that's checkers. It's like, why? Well, okay, I don't understand. He said, well, different athletes learn differently. I mean, some learn by their auditory, what they hear, some are
Mm,
visual, what they see, some are kinesthetic, what they bodies are able to do. So we learn, he told me, we learn what their learning style is, and then we teach them in the strength of their learning style. So
mm,
there was an athlete um, that I know they had at Florida, and he had challenges with learning the offense, and so they started doing it there. Some you're watching film, some you're walked through in practice, and that's how you learn. Others, they played checkers to run plays right there in the office. All right, line up the offense, line up the defense. All right, and then you're sliding different. All right, if it's a sweep, down block, pitch, and running back is here. And that's how they were teaching. I just thought when I came back, I said, so you're doing learning assessments with every athlete? Yes. Okay.
high
Wow.
level. Wow.
High level. I was
High.
like, there's like, well, you can't coach what you don't teach. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Makes sense. But to go to that level, like when you want to be, you talk about champions and developing, like winning championships, you have to have champions. They
Yes.
don't walk in like that. You got to develop, you have to have a
Build.
system, and you have to develop them. And too many times people are expecting the results, but not doing the teaching.
Mm, yep.
And I
Yeah.
think vital.
I'm guilty of that. Early on, I would just yell a little bit more, you know?
You didn't hear me.
No, no, sure. And I'm sure not hearing you now. Now you piss me off, right? When you're yelling at them like an idiot. And that's absolutely me. The thing, I've done a couple of these road trips, and, I'm from Ohio, so I'm a big Ohio homer.
Mhm.
But I called up this one gym that is outstanding. They do 100,000 in revenue a month, and it's just a gym like mine, just awesome, and in Cleveland. So I called him up, hey, come talk to you for a day. He's like, yep. So I set up this little journey. This gym in Cleveland was one, and then I called over to Louis Simmons at Westside Barbell, and Tom was running the show, and Louis was still alive. And I said, can I come see you on this day? And the Arnold is going on in town. So I knew that I was going to get a stop there. And then I went on the website and found Mickey Marotti's email. Hey, can I come see you for a day and watch out? Because I know it's February, March. So combine prep.
Yeah.
Can I come watch you guys for a day? And he's like, cool, no problem. And one, I'm like, oh my God, what gifts? And you hear about this all the time where Louis would pass out information and just keep phoning out, and he would call people on the phone and he would answer. And there's always giving the information and giving. I'm like, so I love that piece in our industry. And I found it to be 100% true. Those just in that one small trip. And I'm like, well, don't be an asshole and show up and just take. So when I show up, I have my backpack and I got my notebook, and I bring like a half dozen books. Legacy by James Kerr, Atomic Habits, Make Your Bed by Admiral McRaven. Like I just bring books that I have read that got me better. And whenever time I show up, I said, "Hey, have you not read any of these books?" And they'll say, "Oh, I haven't read that one." So, cool, here you go. And I
Mhm.
went to West Side. Cool, here you go.
Mhm.
And the same thing with Mickey, and he took one too. And so later, when I'm writing my book, first I read a whole bunch so I can reference those, and then I reference meeting with Mickey, the scene heard and felt. That's in my book because it's real. But
Mhm.
Mickey was kind enough. I spent a whole day there. Quinn Barnum, Q, he's a strength coach now with the Chanticleers, I guess.
Mhm.
Super cool dude. I hung out with him and I'm watching, and then Mickey's like, I can sit there and just ask him any questions. And then Mickey, like, he is number one in the back of my book with his endorsement.
Yeah.
Like, I sent it to him when it was a rough draft, just a Word document, and I said, if you want to read it, great. If you don't want to read it, I know you're busy, but if you any positive words, let me know and put it on the book. He's like, sure, no problem. It wasn't like, I don't know, fuck off, you're below me. Just
Mhm.
super humble and like I'm just nothing compared to this Ohio State behemoth juggernaut, like you, Louisville, big juggernaut, right? And so I'm always like, hey, if this person's showing me grace, and someone calls me up, hey, can you work with me? Can you help me out? I'm like, yeah, come on over here. Because if I say no, then I'm just the biggest asshole for just taking. And
Mhm.
so I've been blessed and by those folks and way better because of so many other people.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been to West Side a couple of times. We've gone there. We've lifted as a staff. Got to ride in Louis' excursion. Um, eat at Bob
Bob
Evans.
Evans.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, breakfast at Bob Evans. Um, man, just yeah, he was always giving, just so gracious with his time. I think that's one of the things we've always tried to be. One of the things I've always tried to be is be humble, be
Mhm.
grateful, graceful,
Yep.
and just know that you know this is a service that the service industry. I'm here as a servant leader, and I think, man, I appreciate this conference, this conversation. I do want to say, next May, I don't know if you've looked at it yet, but the CSCCA conference, so the Collegiate Strength and Conditioning Coaches Association conference, is coming to Indy, and it will be May 5th through the 7th, I believe. It's like that Monday, maybe it's that Tuesday, that Monday through Wednesday. But I would love to have you come by and just hang out. I think you would really enjoy the speakers that we have there, and just meeting a lot of pretty cool coaches. Love to
I
have you.
can. I'll make it. Yeah. I'll look at my calendar, but yeah, I'll be
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Meet other folks for the podcast, and if you need a speaker, working on process,
yeah.
mindset stuff like that. That's just pure joy for me. That's so fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, I want to participate, contribute,
yeah.
or sit back and learn.
Absolutely. Um, we're getting close to wrapping it up. Probably about 5 more minutes. What else you want to talk about? Where you want to go?
Well, definitely, if you come to town, I'll need to have you at my place and lift.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We'll pick out some Atlas stones.
For sure. Well, we're going to get it done before then. Um, we'll figure out a time between now and then so I can spend a whole day with you.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Plus, out in Louisville, turns out that's a big bourbon capital.
Big, big. It turns out that I think 90% of the world's bourbon or more is right, in the
Right there.
Louisville area and
Cool.
central Kentucky, but it is a yeah, big, big bourbon town, big food town. Louisville's a big food town as well.
Mm.
Um, Last statistic I heard is that Louisville goes back and forth with New York City for the most independently owned restaurants per capita than any other
Wow.
city in the United States. So not more, but per capita,
Sure.
us in New York City. And the reason is we have three culinary schools. This is what I've been told. Three culinary schools here. A lot of the students stay in their high level, chefs, or they open up their own restaurants.
Mm.
So
Oh,
the
fun.
Yeah, so we rarely go to any chain restaurant.
Don't need to.
Don't need to. There, you can probably go 2 years going somewhere new every day. That's
Awesome.
independently owned, high level restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Man. So I've been there a few times. One of the guys down there runs Louisville Strongman. He was a coach out of my gym, and he moved back by his family. And he runs a little group there. He
Hmm.
competes. And last year took my wife down there just for her birthday. Been down to the Derby a couple times.
Yeah.
Just awesome.
Yeah.
And I, you're, I don't know if you call Kentucky the South, but it just feels more South. And people are just nice. I get a lot of that, yes sir, yes ma'am, and
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
they elongate that I.
Oh yeah.
Five, five. It just melts my heart, and the food's better. Oh my goodness, it just speaks to me, right? It's so good, so good.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
call it I haven't heard anyone else call it this, but to me, kind of growing up or Michigan, Missouri, been in Arkansas and Oklahoma, this is like the New Orleans of the Midwest to me. That's what it feels like. So it's southern, but it's got that spice to it, like New Orleans.
yeah. Which you get from that food because you're having these experiences with people, typically around food,
Yeah,
and these different kinds of um, tastes, and I don't know, just all different kind of options, and which you have down there too. So that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Where do you at that highest level? Like you talk about Ohio State, right?
Yes.
And going back and forth with Mickey, and you see what they're doing and how they are relentless in every aspect of
Mhm.
improvement,
Yeah,
right? That's got to be one of their mantras, relentless.
yeah.
I know what their other core values are, but that's their approach. So how do you reconcile that they lose to Michigan 4 years in a row? How that these big games that they're coming up a little short. Now, when we talk about games of inches, I get that during the game, but the game is played all year, all day. Those inches are adding up, right? Is one of my
Right.
things. You're stacking these wins and these inches all year long, and they're at this high level. But I'm watching them do these things. Like I was there the other day, and on their little tables in their cafeteria for their team, for their football players, they had like a little piece of paper, a little small, for each spot at the table, and it's these multiple choice questions on how do you know if you're hydrated, right? How do you know these things? So these kids are always they're
Hmm.
always learning.
Right.
And so I'm just looking at them like, shit, like they're everywhere,
Hmm.
turning like improvement. And at the highest level, this other team beat them? Oh my God. Like, how? All right. Not that Ohio State's the best, but how does this other team win? Or how's Georgia win? Or how's Alabama win that year? Like the razor thin margin.
Yeah.
How do you quantify that? How do you figure that out?
I might
But
have. I'm going to answer that question. I might have to edit my answer out. You're going to get me in trouble, Jim. Uh, my daughter just graduated from Ohio State 4 days
yeah.
ago.
Oh,
Um,
awesome.
so, and I'll give you an example. I was at the conference one year. Ben Herbert, who's the head strength coach at Michigan, who's now the head strength coach with the Chargers, uh,
Hmm.
followed. He went out there with the staff. He invited me up a few years ago to check things out and just kind of work with them a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I got to see behind the scenes how they operate. And I think a couple years at the conference, I saw him at the conference. Hey, I posted it on social media. My daughter, who's in college, texts me and says, "Really? Seriously? Michigan?"
Right.
And I'm going, all right. So I text Mickey, hey, Mickey, where are you? He said, I'm down in the lobby. I said, hold on for 1 second. I need to come take a picture with you so I can post it on
Right.
social media so I can get out of the doghouse with my daughter. But you're just talking about two high level programs. I had the ultimate respect for Ben Herbert. I learned so much from him, just like I learned so much from Mickey going to visit. Like the way they do things is just different. There's a different standard. There's a different level of attention to detail. Um, I thought that I had done some things pretty well at a high level. Uh, when you go to Ohio State, you meet with Mickey and you realize it's not just Mickey that's performing at that high level. It's
Right.
everyone
Yep.
driving in the same direction. You go to when I went to Michigan and I got to spend time with Ben Herbert. Anything that he does, it's like anything we do is worth measuring. And if they did it, they measured it. If they did it, if they were asking athletes to do it, they measured it. And I'm talking from neck strength to neck range of motion. Like if we're doing neck exercise and we're doing isometric neck exercise, partner isometric neck, we're going to test our isometric neck strength. If we're doing rotational work, eccentric, concentric, rotational work with our neck, we're going to test the range of motion and the strength to do that. Like the level of attention to detail with every little thing. When I saw the football players come in the weight room and they all put their shoes heel to toe 1 inch from the wall and no coach told them to do it.
Mm.
I was like, okay, this is couple years they're going to win a national championship
Right.
because this
Yeah.
is what it looks like. It
Yep.
looks different.
Yep.
So you don't get to that level and win by accident.
Never.
So
Ever. Ever.
with that,
Ever.
Jim, I think we got to close it out. Hopefully, I don't get myself in trouble with that. I tried to, I'm from Michigan, and I got the Ohio State grad in the house, and it gets sensitive. It gets really sensitive.
Well, how about Kirk Herbstreit? His son is at Michigan.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
That's
my God.
yeah. That's serious. That's
Oh my
serious.
God. That's serious. Yeah, yes. It's like divorce material, if you're there. Oh my gosh. That's funny. That's awesome.
That's
Man, had a
good.
good time.
Yeah, well, I had a good time, and this time flew by. Um,
Yes.
Appreciate getting to know you a little bit better, and
Hmm.
hope our listeners and viewers appreciate two people that basically got to know each other 2 weeks ago.
Hmm.
Now going back and forth on each other's podcast out of admiration and respect, and just being inquisitive, wanting to learn
Yes.
and grow. And I think that's something, if I could pass something on to, the rest of the world out there, is get to know someone you don't know, get to appreciate them, get to the point that possibly you can even respect them. And I think that'll make our world a better place.
Yes. Shout out Dr. Como for hooking us up.
Yes, yeah, we would be remiss if we did not mention her. So
Yep.
appreciate you, Doc.
Yep. She's
Yep,
awesome.
yep, she is. All right. Well, take care. You have a great day, and
Yep.
I'll
Merry
see you
Christmas.
soon.